Hands once if you can hear my voice. Clap your hands twice if you can hear my voice. Awesome. Okay. Well, welcome back to class and lecture. Hope everyone had a good lab and a good lunch and anything else that starts with the letter L. So we're nearing the end of the CSS portion of the curriculum, which I couldn't be more excited about. I like CSS. I don't really like demonstrating CSS as much because it is so much of just like fiddling around. It's not that bad. I just prefer like puzzles, but with logic. Anyway, this logic, whatever. It just depends on how you look at it. To each is their own. Okay, so let's just dive into this. So we're going to learn a little bit about different positions today, a little bit about different other displays, and also, I'll write down this. Whoa, a two-sided expo? Whose is this?
Nice.
This is like really fancy. Okay, and Christmas theme. Okay, so we're going to learn a little bit about position, display, which we've already. What's a couple displays we already know? What?
Grid.
Flex and grid, yeah. And we're also going to talk a little bit about Zindex. What?
No, yeah, that was on the game.
That was on the game.
Mentioned in the game.
Ooh. Okay. So I've got my HTML file. I've got a CSS file. Let's get ready to rock and roll. There's my HTML file. I've already connected it, and I've already tested it, but I'll test it. Well, this is a new folder for me, but you could write it in the same if you wanted to. Just depends on how you want to keep your notes. Body, I'll just double check that it is connected. I'll make my background pink or any color that you like. I'm in a pink mood, and so there's pink. Great. All right, let's get into this. Okay, so first things I'm going to talk about are a couple other display properties. So we have display flex, right? This allows us to move things. We have the justify content, center, space between, space around, space evenly. We have align items, center. You don't really need to really know the rest that well, right? There's order, I guess, is in there. And then we have grid. It's just the same thing, but we have like grid template. We have grid area. We have grid dash row, like grid column, right? We've kind of played around with that today. And so another display is we can say display block. Display block is what is default, is the default with divs. They take up 100% of the width. And so let's just go ahead and inside of here, add some HTML. So I'm going to just write some text, and I'm going to have a strong tab in there. So what does this look like? Looks like this by default. Let me increase the size. Gotcha, Britt. Right? We can kind of see that it's bold, right? Where the strong is, the word amat consector. Okay, so that's the default behavior of a strong. So now let's go ahead and style this strong property a bit. So let's go into our master.css. I'm just going to go ahead and grab strong. And I'm going to give it a background yellow so we can see it. And I'm going to give it a padding of 10 pixels. And I'm going to give it a display of block. Okay? And so when we do this, we'll go back, we'll refresh, and we see that because the strong tag is now display block, it takes its own line, it occupies that width of 100%, and the other elements respect its space. Right? So they're not encroaching, they're not in the yellow or anything like that. Yep.
Where did we get the code
Oh, I just wrote it.
Oh,
It's just random text.
Latin.
Specifically called something called lorem ipsum. So I grabbed it beforehand, and then I added a strong tag in there. So yours could say anything.
Okay. Is there a reason why they use Latin for that?
For lorem ipsum,
Yeah.
I'm sure there is a reason. I don't know what it is. That's a good question.
Wait, that's Latin?
Yeah, but that I don't know what it means. That doesn't matter. It's a representation of lots of random text that doesn't matter. That's when someone says like lorem ipsum, they're just talking about a chunk of text where it doesn't matter. It's what it represents, which is a chunk of text. That's called lorem ipsum. Something you probably might want to know. If you don't already know that, you should probably write that down, just because that's something that could. Yeah. No, it's not. It's not going to be on the test. But just because something's not on the test doesn't mean you should know it, right? Like you probably won't get asked that in a coding interview. It's not part of coding, but it is part of the English language. So like it's something to know. Anyway, so this is what a display block does, right? We can also say inline block or inline. We'll start with it. What do I want to start with? Let's start with inline. So I think strong by default might be inline. So that was block. This is inline. If we say display inline. And when we do inline, it looks like this. Right? So it doesn't take up the whole space. It just takes up the space of the element. And other things can be on either side. So it's default. Of course, we could still style widths and heights and all that. There's a combination of the two, which is called inline block, which will have a slightly different effect. So we'll add block, refresh the page. Does that look right? Yeah, all right. Yes?
So display inline, would that be like the same as like when say you have like a reading app and they have like a highlighter function?
Yeah, that would probably be the display inline. That sounds like a good idea. Just saying, is that kind of like when you have a reading app and it has a highlight function? Although I'm not 100% sure how that one would be worked out. Okay, so inline block looks like this. It looks pretty similar. I think if I make this a smaller page, it might look different. There you go. If I make it wrap, truly wrap. No. All right. Well, you should just be aware that it exists. Be more aware of inline and block. Those are a lot more common. And then we also have display none. What do we think display none will do? Make it invisible is what I'm hearing. So if I say display none, and I refresh, it's gone. It isn't being displayed. Right? Not only is it not being displayed, I'm pretty sure it doesn't actually even get rendered at all as an element. So we'll see. Oh no, it's still there. You just cannot see it. So it's still existing. So you could still grab it and change it to like display block or something so you could see it. Right? If you had like a toggle function to hide something, show something. But it doesn't show up on the screen. It's not getting painted. Okay, so that's our displays. So we have display block, we have display inline, we have a display inline block. I'm not 100% certain what inline block is doing. And then we also have display flex, display grid, display none. Okay, those are like your main displays. Okay, so now we're also going to talk about position. So I'm going to go back to my HTML. And instead of having this lorem ipsum block, I'm going to go ahead and make some divs. Yeah, okay, so this div will have a class. We'll say class is first. I'm going to put first in here. Okay, then I'm going to just make a few of them. So we'll do second. You don't have to make all of them. Third, fourth. I'll just do 5. Fifth. I didn't spell fifth right. Fifth. There we go. Okay. Now let's go ahead and give these some colors so we can see them. So I'm going to go in here, I'll select them, and I'll say dot first, background, let's say it's green, dot second, background red, dot third. It's a little bit of a busy work thing, yeah? Yellow, dot fourth, background, say pink, dot fifth, background we'll say, I don't know, light blue. Yeah, I screwed up my background. Here. Okay. Let's go see what that looks like. Looks like that. That's kind of pretty. I want to make these a little bit bigger so I actually have some scrolling ability. So let's go to the top and select just divs in general here. And I'm going to give them all a height of, I don't know, 100 pixels. Save it, refresh it. Nice. Okay, questions so far? Nope, good. Okay. So, elements are positioned static by default. Okay? So I will click this, and I'll end up looking into this, and I'll see if it shows me anywhere. It's not, but you can trust me, position is static. This means that it's positioned according to the normal flow of the document. So, like if I put a position property here and I say static, and I refresh, nothing changes because this is already the default position. Okay. So there's also a position relative. So a position relative is, we can use things like top, bottom, left, or right to move it relative to where it should be in the flow already. So let me show you what I mean. So if I'm going to, instead of having static on our second, let's go ahead and say position relative. And I'm going to give some direction. So top, I'm going to say 20 pixels. And left, I'm going to say 20 pixels. With a position relative, we will refresh. For some reason, it didn't do anything on it. What? Position is misspelled. Perfect. Excellent. That'll move us towards the goal. Perfect. Thank you, Jamie. Awesome catch. None of us know how to spell position. Okay. Or they were just so confident I would see it. Okay, so we can see that before, when it was positioned static, even though I had misspelled it, but it really didn't matter, it stayed in the normal flow of the document, top to bottom, as it read. When we do position relative, it's moving it from where it's supposed to be. So we can see the white behind it is where it's supposed to be, right? But we've moved it 20 from the top and 20 from the left. So, and it's overlapping the third, as we can see as well. Questions on that, the relative? Yeah, Britt.
Is that how they do like 3D imaging on websites?
Is that how they do 3D imaging on websites? I don't know. Like whole images?
Where they make it look like it's popping out or whatever, because like.
It's a picture or it's a element?
Or like text.
It might be something like that with like text or elements. If it's like picture, they're probably using something else. I don't know. We'll explore that one together. I like that. Any questions just on how this works? Okay, cool. If I do position absolute, the element is removed from the normal document flow, and no space is created for the element in the page layout. So it's positioned relative to its closest positioned ancestor. So let me see if I can show. If there is no positioned ancestor, it will be placed relative to the initial containing block. So let me show you what I mean by that. So if we move this to position absolute, and I refresh the page, we'll see that it got moved because there is no containing, it's not in a container of any sort. Right, so it's moved to the absolute of, the container for this situation is the body, right, which doesn't have a position. So it's just being moved from the very top of the page, 20 and 20. It's being shrunk, I'm not sure why. Sometimes you can get weird behaviors with these. So let's put it inside of something so we can see a different example. So if I put div, let's make another div, and I'm just going to call this like class outer, outer container. And I'm going to go ahead and put third. Or we were dealing with second, right? I'm going to go ahead and put second inside of our outer container. And for now, I'm going to take off these positionings. I'll put them back on in a second. So basically, we've just put a div inside of another div, and we don't see that other div because its only job is containing this current div. But if I gave this outer div, so the outer container, outer container, and I gave this a position, and let's say I gave this a position relative, and then I brought this back, this position absolute, the top and the left, and we refresh. It's moving from its last positioned ancestor. So let's look at that again. So because HTML, in our HTML, oh gosh, go away. Okay, because our HTML has a div inside of a div, and our outer container has a position, the absolute will be positioned to its ancestor that has a position. So because outer has a position, this is an ancestor to second, right? It's specifically the parent to second. And so second's positioning with absolute will be compared to the outer container position. So that is why now, instead of it being up at the top left, it is now inside there. It's still inside of our outer container, we can see. There's our outer container holding our second. And our second is inside. Questions on that? It's a little confusing. It'll be better like once you're actually using these types of things, it should make more sense. But the idea is that if you're positioning absolute, it's positioned compared to whatever ancestor has a position. That's all. So because outer has a position, the child with absolute will be positioned compared to that other one. Okay? Yeah.
Can you show the CSS?
Sure. Okay. We're almost done with the positions. The next position is fixed. Okay? Fixed. So position fixed, the element is again removed from the normal document flow, but it is created from the page layout. So if I change second from absolute to fixed right now, we'll go back. Now, before it was inside of its ancestor that has a positioning, but now when I refresh, it goes to the page as a general, as a whole. Fixed is referring to the page layout as a whole.
So fixed itself is based on the body.
On the whole page. This includes the HTML here. Yeah, so everything we're seeing in that browser window, fixed is referring to that. And you'll see that it really stays fixed. So even when I scroll, everything is scrolling just underneath it. It doesn't, it's fixed to that exact spot on the window. Okay? If we go back and we make this absolute.
Oh, so is that kind of like when you're on like a shopping website and they have like the arrow down in the corner leading back to the top and it'll stay down there as you're scrolling?
Probably, yeah. I only go on Amazon. But we can see when it's absolute, it still does scroll. So fix is the only one that's like not scrolling at all. Yeah? It's stuck. Okay. This next one's just kind of a bonus one. Okay, but it's like my favorite because I think it's the coolest. Okay. The next one, so let's do it from the third one. Okay, so the third, we'll say, let's give it a position. Position, sticky. Everybody loves something that's sticky. Not your son?
No.
How old is your son?
4.
Are you sure?
Yes. He won't eat several. Okay.
Oh man, I don't know if I want to meet your. I kind of do want to meet your son now. All right. So let's say we say top 0 pick. So 0 is referring to the top of the entire document. So let's look at this behavior because this behavior is really cool. Okay. Hopefully I set this up right. Okay. I'm going to start scrolling down. Everything looks totally normal. As soon as third gets to the top, third gets stuck to the top. Right? Isn't that cool?
Yeah, fixed.
You can't see?
No. My screen isn't scrolling.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, that's why I gave them all this kind of height so I could demonstrate this. All right, so sticky moves until you've told it to stop moving at that spot by saying top or left or bottom, right? You can kind of do some cool effects like that. So yeah, sticky is the coolest. It's not actually in the curriculum, but it's the coolest one, so you have to know about it. Also, like my Yelp project does that with the map, because the real Yelp used to do that with the map. Anyway, however, fixed is going to stay stuck to the window. Absolute is going to be positioned to its ancestor, its most recent ancestor with a position. Relative will be positioned to where it's supposed to be, just in the natural flow. And static is what it's defaulted to. Okay? So we're good with all those? Okay. Let's write them down on the board. All right. But you guys have to, but since I just said them, you have to tell me what they are. We'll take them one by one. Okay, so the first one, let's say, is sticky, because that's the coolest one. We just talked about it. Somebody tell me sticky. Define it. Some brave soul who can raise their hand above their head. David.
It's something that adjusts to the actual body itself and
Okay, anyone else want to take a shot? Yeah, Britt?
So it gets stuck to whatever position you put it, and it scrolls with the page. And it's stuck
Cool.
in that position.
Okay, I like that. So let's say scrolls with page, gets stuck at specified spot, we'll just say. And these are all, we'll use like, we'll have top, bottom, left, and right, just so we can remember what kind of things we're using to move around. Same one. Question?
Can you choose for how long something is sticky for?
I don't think with strict CSS. You could probably do something with JavaScript that listens for an event of a mouse move or like a scroll event, and then at a time would fire something to wait a certain amount of time, and then its callback function would go and grab it and manipulate it. But I don't think you can do that with strict CSS. Not that I know of. But possibly feasible, right? I don't know everything about CSS. Okay, so that's sticky. What else do we have?
Relative.
Relative? Let's do it, Ashia. What is it?
It stays in the position relative to its original.
Okay, so we'll say changes from its initial, I'll say flow position. I don't know, it's probably not the greatest definition. For better definitions, check MDN, yeah? But it's where it's supposed to be within the flow of the page, and it gets changed according to that. What's the next one?
Fixed.
Fixed. Tell me fixed.
That would move along with the screen at whatever position is fixed.
Stuck to location on screen. Yeah, it's stuck right there. It's fixed to that spot. One more. Two more. What do we got? Kelvin. Static. Tell me about it. Static is just relative flow. It's just like in the flow's position. In flow's position, it's, and you said the default, right? That's right. It'd be really annoying if like any of the ones had a different default, right? Like if sticky or fixed was a default, that would like be crap. So that's why we have to use static. Okay, one more. And then you went somebody new. Come on, someone who absolutely knows it. Someone can raise their hand. Someone. Absolute? Okay, tell me about it. Okay, pretty good. Yeah, positions to most recent ancestor position, if exists. Otherwise, it goes to the window. Okay, is that all of them? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? I think so. So those are all pretty cool. They're kind of fun.
Do they all have top, bottom, left, right, or is it just?
Yeah, I believe so. That's how we can purposely move them around. Yeah, Shia.
What did you mean by when you said otherwise it goes to the window?
For the absolute?
Yeah.
So we saw that when we're styling second right now, it's in its ancestor, because its ancestor, or specifically its parent in this one, outer container, has a position property of relative. If outer container did not have a position relative, it won't be in there. It will go to the top there because it doesn't have an ancestor with a set position. Good question. Any others? All right. Cool. We're almost done with the CSS stuff. Which is actually I've kind of liked CSS more this time than I was expecting. Okay. The last thing is Zindex. Zindex, no big deal. It's kind of interesting. The higher the Z index, the closer the element is to you. So let's just say higher Z index, closer the element is to, we'll say, the user. I understand that all of the elements are behind a screen on a computer, right? But conceptually, like I could draw something in front of something, right? So let's see what I mean by that. So let's say I have, so I'm going to get rid of all these current positions for now. And sometimes Z index doesn't work exactly the way you would expect it to work, because it has to be inside of what is called like a frame, like a stack frame. So they have to like all share something. You'll see. Okay, so right now all of our divs are height of 100. What if I did this? What if I said position fixed, top 0, left 0. What if I did that to the div? What would we see? What are we going to see on the screen? All right, talk about it with somebody next to you, and tell me what we think is going to change if I put position fixed on div. Yes. Okay. Yes. 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 All right. What do we think? What do we think? Somebody pop that up. Pop it up. If you want to answer the questions, throw up your hands. Okay. Who's gonna do it? Jay. Which div? All of the divs will go there? Will we be able to see them all, or what will happen? What's it going to look like? Okay, thank you for raising your hand. Who else wants to take a guess? Somebody? Yeah, fair. What do we got?
My first guess was that it wouldn't scroll, and I thought, doesn't the user have more power than that? Like, can they prevent me from scrolling on a browser?
Oh, 100% we can, but this probably won't be. This probably won't be that one, but you totally can prevent. You can say overflow hidden, and then or like, I think that's the one, or overflow Y specifically, if you want the up and down scroll gone. Super annoying. You probably don't usually add that. What else? Yeah. Which? No, we. No. We. Just talking to me. Right? When you say we, you're talking about the person you're talking to. Okay. So I'm glad that we agreed upon that. Let's take a look at what we think. All right, enough. Boom. How weird does that look? What?
What? Normal.
Interesting. Let's give everything a set width too, yeah? We gave it a height of 100 pixels. Let's say width of 100 pixels too. That's better. That's it, right? Because where are they all? They're underneath, right? They're further away from the user. Why do we see fifth? Yeah. Oh, yeah, I love that. Yeah. What's going on, Sin?
The one on top. Like if it was like a stack, it's the one on top.
Fifth
It's
is
the last pancake you put on.
he said fifth said Sin. Fifth says that Sin is the last waffle that he put on the top, and so it's the one that's there, right? Because Sin right there is at the very bottom. Fifth. Cousin fifth. Okay. So let's say we wanted to put fourth instead, because that was more important to us. Because, right, obviously this is an extreme example. Because, like, why would you want to stack all of them? Maybe you would. Maybe there's some reason. Like, but in real life, maybe you just want things to overlap. Like, kind of how we saw that, like, an overlap earlier. But let's see. So, if we want that, let's go ahead to our fourth, and let's go style it. Let's go ahead and grab its z-index. So by default, the z-index is 0 for things. So if I make this higher than 0, it will be the top. And it's right there, right? So I'm going to tap that. If I go to the third, how can I make the third higher than the fourth right now? Well, 0, is that higher or lower than 1? So, yeah, wait, what was that, Con? He says any number greater than 1 will be closer to us than the current biggest, which is fourth at 1. So let's try it. So we'll say z-index 2. Now we have our third. All right, so with z-index, you can layer things differently.
Can you have a still index to that too?
Yeah, but then we'll just go back to like the one that was at the most recent. If they're stuck all on top of each other like that. So instead of having them all fixed to a spot, because that seems pretty specific, let's go back to our first, or let's go back to our position sticky. Right, so we go back to having our third here. All right, we refresh, and our third, we hit our third, and now all of a sudden it goes over the fourth, right? Because that's kind of like the active. But if we said like, okay, instead, I want the fourth to go over the third. For some reason, I have it. Maybe it would be a better example if we do it on the second. Let's do the second instead of the third, because I think that will be slightly more interesting. Okay. Okay, this is our document now. And we're scrolling, and the second gets stuck, the third goes behind, the fourth goes behind, and all that, right? But what if I wanted the third to go above and the fourth to go behind? Right, so let's go, what can I change on the third to make it go above second? The z-index should be greater than what? Than second, and second's default is what? 0. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. So we'll go to the third. We'll give it a z-index of 1. So now when we refresh, second gets stuck. Oh, this might be like a weird thing. Still not working. So this might be what? Yeah, this might be from a different stack. Let's see. What happens if I go? Let's just try a couple of things. I might not be able to get it to work without spending a lot of time. First, oh, I didn't move those in. Okay, hang on. So first, good. Okay, I got it to work this way. So I think it was because that other div is nested inside of that div, right? So that was giving us a weird response because I put it. So before I had it on outer container, and so that's where I had our sticky, I think, right? And so then we also we have a div inside of outer container, and so that was kind of making things weird because we haven't actually styled outer container. It's clear, so I think that was the issue. But so if I put sticky on the first element though, and on the second thing, I'd say, okay, I want that to be a z-index of 1, and that's going to be part of the third. And then for the fourth, I'll give that a z-index of 1. With that, we start to get this every other pattern where it's like second goes over first, third goes under first, fourth goes under, and then, well, I think fifth would have. I'm surprised fourth went under. It's part of this, like, it's a lot of futzing. It is a lot of futzing around, okay? But you can see that we got most of it working. Where we've got it so like we can flip the change, which is a pretty cool effect. You've probably seen websites that do stuff similar to that in certain points, and they're using it. They might be using z-index, one of the ways. Okay, so z-index, there's like these context stacks which make it a little bit, like within those is where you can use your z-index, so if everything's in the same spot and same like levels. Otherwise, sometimes it can be frustrating and hard to work with. But yeah, the higher the z-index, the closer that element appears onto the screen, or the highest level, depending on how your mind works. Okay, that's pretty much it with the CSS. I think we're going to post new pairs. Yeah, let's do new pairs for this lab. Any questions of positions, displays, or Z's? Yeah? We're catching enough Z's? All right, awesome. Brutal.